I don't even want to tell you how many times or how long it takes to make videos because I have to find this. Man, I'm telling you, it takes more than it should. One thing I'm not gonna have on YouTube is ashy lips like how y'all be having kneecaps. Black community ain't gonna disown me. What's going on with you guys? TheCaliEffect, king of games here. And this actually feels like the best day to talk about our health update. I don't know, like, especially for this week, it just feels really good to get the health update and then proceed on with the rest of the video. So in case you guys didn't know, for the past few days, I was actually in the hospital. And if you're not a part of my Twitter or Patreon, you probably didn't notice, but yeah, those videos that were uploaded the last 2 days, yeah, they were supposed to be uploaded sooner. It actually got so bad to a point where one of my knees was double the size of the other and I could not walk. I was in the hospital for 2 days and they really couldn't pinpoint what was exactly wrong. But just recently, I have felt amazing. So amazing, I actually got to play football on Sunday and go to locals. Now, how did I do playing football? Have you guys ever seen a 2.5-legged camel run? Let's not talk about that. It was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I look completely ridiculous. I should just retire from football. But I'm not gonna lie. I was in tears because that was the first day I've been able to walk or run without a problem. And while I might be paying for it today, I don't feel as great as the last 2 days. I think it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. So for everyone in the Too Strong gang that is down, I just wanted to let you know that there is an up. Keep fighting for it and you will eventually get there. I promise, man. It feels so good. But with that being said, let's actually talk about another thing that feels so good. Knowing exactly what is in this April 2021 meta. It's slightly different from March because it's April. Nah, I'm just playing, but in this particular video, I'm going to be breaking down to you how the meta works in April 2021. This is going to be an extensive guide for players that want to know how the meta works and what decks are very viable. And to be honest, every single deck on this particular tier list I feel can consistently top at the very lowest a local level. We pick some of the most popular decks from this particular format, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down to you why they are good and what they can bring as a benefit to the format. So of course, if you want to see more videos like this, then use your 5th summon to Nibiru, that subscribe button, but also be sure to hit that notification bell because, well, we just too strong. So with all that being said, we're actually going to be doing this tier list video different from the other tier list videos. I want you guys to post down below in the comment section, as well as if you prefer this way. We're going to do a lot less shifting camera back and forth, and we're just going to stick to the tier list. I have 4 different categories. The first category being meta changers. Now, a lot of tier lists or a lot of videos that talk about the best decks in the Yu-Gi-Oh, or the Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever that is. It's not Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, it's the Yu-Gi-Oh. I feel like they just kind of tell you what's the best deck, but they don't tell you why it's the best deck, and they don't tell you why other decks are good too. There are decks in Yu-Gi-Oh that have a huge impact on the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and that's exactly what Meta Changer is. Now, Meta Changer isn't necessarily above tier 1, they are tier 1 decks, but tier 1 decks actually don't necessarily change the meta. They're better than all of the other decks and can still compete with the Meta Changer decks. If you guys are starting to notice the trickle down effect, Meta Changers and then the decks that can compete with the Meta Changers, they're one and close to another. From there, we have the tier 2 decks. The tier 2 decks can compete fairly well with tier 1 decks, but sometimes just aren't necessarily good against what is the main cards that are being played and how the meta is being defined. You guys get what I'm saying? If you don't get what I'm saying, don't worry, I'll explain it a little better when we start talking about decks. And then lastly are the rogue strategies. These strategies are built to combat the Meta Changer or tier 1 decks. If you guys see a dominant amount of these particular strategies in your local level area, then consider playing one of these rogue strategies. You might have some success with it. So with all that being said, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick out the Meta Changer decks. The best decks undisputably in Yu-Gi-Oh is Rocket Dragon Link and Invoked Shaddoll. That's right, both of those decks define the meta right now. So the reason why I say both of these decks define the meta is because Rocket Dragon Link is not only a tier 1 deck, it almost completely ignores hand traps in the current Yu-Gi-Oh card game. In order to soundly defeat a Rocket Dragon Link player, you need at least 2 very powerful hand traps like Nibiru and Droll, and sometimes they still make a board. This has had a huge trickle-down effect on every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of players are combating this by just playing cards to help them get into their blowout cards like Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, or they're just not playing as many hand traps because it just doesn't work against Rocket Dragon Link. They let them make their board and then they try to break that board. And if you start looking at topping deck lists from this past week, then you'll see that there's a trend. Again, players are starting to play less hand traps and are starting to respect Dragon Link and trying to break the board. Now, the next thing you'll start to notice about this meta is that special summoning is good and it's bad. The reason why is because instead of trying to combat the Rocket Dragon Link making a board, decks like Invoke Shaddoll can either, if they go first, summon El Shaddoll Window, which kind of puts Rocket Dragon Link in a tough spot, and if going second, has cards like Shaddoll Fusion, which will allow them to fuse from their deck if you have a monster special summon from your extra deck. The reason why Shaddoll Invoked is also very, very good is because of one particular card, Magical Meltdown. It feels really weird to say that Invoked Shaddoll players don't necessarily care about getting to Alistair, they care about that other effect about Magical Meltdown. You should know, the effect that prevents your opponent from responding to Shaddoll Fusion in Shaddoll Schism, you know, that effect of Magical Meltdown? Yeah, that exists. And that's the reason why Invoke Shaddoll is just so crazy into this format. I personally feel that these are the meta changing decks. Players have to watch out for Winda, and then players have to watch out for their hand trap count going against some of the best decks. Now, with that being said, let's start stacking up these decks to this particular meta and see exactly how it pans out. I think that Altergeist is a really, really good rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Altergeist has really interesting matchups against the meta changer Yu-Gi-Oh decks. El Shaddoll Winda does prevent Multi-Faker from special summoning another monster, but Silquitos can actually get rid of Multi-Faker. And while Rocket Dragon Link can make some insane boards against Altergeist, this deck plays like 20 trap cards. They're in for the long haul. Altergeist is in a really interesting spot because cards like Infinite Impermanence and Evenly Matched are actually really good trap cards that can be activated during your turn or your opponent's turn to trigger Multi-Faker's effect and also help break an opponent's board. I know that I said hand traps aren't necessarily good, but when you're activating Infinite Impermanence and gaining another disruption out of it, that's actually exactly what you need out of a hand trap to provide you 2 disruptions to help you stop a Rocket Dragon Link's board. Next would be the Buster Blader deck. This is also another really good rogue deck for obvious reasons. The meta changer tier 1 best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Rocket Dragon Link. This should not be hard for people to understand. Don't be a glue eater. It's pretty obvious why Buster Blader is good. Now, ironically, I think that the Buster Blader deck has more success now than when I tried to take it to locals to destroy people with, which is just a result of my terrible timing, but yeah, this deck's pretty dope. You won't believe actually what I consider Cyber Dragon into this meta. It's a very, very, very solid rogue deck. Cyber Dragon is actually a lot better than what players think. Invoked Mechaba is a machine. Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres must be in the extra monster zone. Cyber Dragon literally takes care of both of those cards for free. Cyber Dragon isn't the best deck while going first, but it's actually an amazing deck while going second. Actually can't reveal too much information because I have a spicy Cyber Dragon deck that can actually combat the meta. I'll share it with you guys a little later. Now, Burning Abyss is another rogue deck. We have hit like 4 rogue decks in a row. I don't think that Burning Abyss is a bad deck. Divine Arsenal AA Zeus is not as good as it was earlier, mainly because Shaddoll Winda prevents you from summoning, and of course, Dragon Link puts up true disruptions, but Burning Abyss does play in a game of attrition. It's also a deck that plays 40 million trap cards and can play around those certain cards that I just said, so Burning Abyss is a deck that I would not consider necessarily out of the metagame. Now, since I've talked so much about Rogue, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick a deck and put it in the tier 1 category, a deck that I think is too strong. We're gonna have to put Dinos into the tier 1 stratus. What is a stratus? The reason why Dinos is a tier 1 deck is because it's amazing at breaking boards, something that Rocket Dragon Link likes to set up and will fail to with Dinos and Misk. Have you read Misk? Dinos are also just a really good going second deck. Main boarding cards like Dark Ruler no more, and if you can't afford it, Lightning Storm. That allows you to break monsters like El Shaddoll Winda with ease. Not that you really need it to, sometimes you only special summon once anyways, and it's a deck that isn't reliant on its extra deck. Dino is easily a tier 1 deck in this Yu-Gi-Oh card game. It's extremely powerful. Now, ironically, if I had to put another deck in the tier 1 status just to even it out, I would put, it feels like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Prank Kids are tier 1 going out on a limb. Prank Kids are kind of ridiculous. In a format where Mystic Mine is secretly good and the deck can actually use Mystic Mine, yeah. Also in a format where there can be only one can help you break an opponent's board, as well as this deck can play around it, yeah. Prank Kids is also one of the only competitive Yu-Gi-Oh decks that can dodge hand traps like Artifact Lancia, but it can also take full advantage of cards like Cypher Year Gamma and Nibiru inside of the main board, mainly because even after setting up your combo, you can rid yourself of all of your monsters, and you also can still interact on your opponent's turn. I feel like there just might be a lot of naysayers in the comment section, but Prank Kids are a lot better than what a lot of players have given it credit. Dragoonity, I feel, is going to be a solid rogue deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. The reason why it's in here is because it's new, and while it does have ways to like make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon before its 5th summon, it's still a worse Dragon Link. Ironically, Dragon Link can take that exact same Dragoonity combo and make Crystal Wing before its 5th summon, so why are we playing Dragoonity? And it's no slight to Dragoonity. I think that it's a very solid deck that sets up some pretty cool boards, but the problem with it is that it's not easy to break boards with Dragoonity unless you're playing those going second cards. But the problem with that is that Dragoonity isn't naturally able to break those going first boards. And while facing against Invoked, it doesn't give the deck any targets, it still has a hard time getting over Winda. Drytron is a deck that has completely fallen out of grace. This is actually a strategy that I feel could top a locals, but not necessarily anything else after that. The deck is in heavy need of the Exceed monster that comes out very soon, and once it does, I feel that it'll be a lot better of a deck. Eldritch I'll have to put in the tier 2 category. It's a deck that's really good, but can get blown out by Rocket Dragon Link. Now the reason why I say that is because if Rocket Dragon Link goes first, Eldritch has a very hard time keeping up. And while if Eldritch goes first, it can set up really well, if Rocket Dragon Link has board breaking cards like Lightning Storm, then it's going to be really hard for Eldritch to recover after Rocket Dragon Link proceeds to make its board. Now ironically, I do think if you're playing Eldritch, your best variant would probably be playing Zombie World inside of your Eldritch variant. It helps you break that Rocket Dragon Link deck, especially if you can find a way to use Necro War Banshee, possibly through Beatrice or something on your opponent's turn. You'll be pretty set up to beat Rocket Dragon Link. It also allows you to main deck cards like Super Polymerization because everything is zombies, but it's still really good against Invoked as well. Why am I giving you guys the sauce? This is a little bit too saucy for you guys to know about Invoked, but just know that it's a pretty solid tier 2 deck. Pure and budget Shaddolls, I'm gonna have to put into tier 2 status. Now I bet you guys are wondering what's the difference between Invoked Shaddolls and Shaddolls. It's going to be Magical Meltdown. Just preventing your opponent from stopping you from fusion summoning is that strong. Earth Machine is another solid tier 2 deck. Earth Machine is one of the most grindiest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's what I love about it. It can be hand trapped and continue to keep playing, but with players playing less and less hand traps, this deck can make some really powerful boards. It's not necessarily a huge heavy hitter, but it's a combo grindy deck that can outgrind decks like Rocket Dragon Link. You know, the deck that's probably the best grind deck in Yu-Gi-Oh while being a combo. I feel like Madolche is heavily slept on. It is a seriously good tier 2 deck for the same reason why Dinos is a seriously good tier 2 deck. You play a lot of board breaking cards like Lightning Storm and Dark Ruler No More, and then cards like Madolche Queen Tiramisu shuffle in the cards. Shuffle in the cards. Shuffle in the cards. That's right, no going to the graveyard for those particular cards. They go right into the deck, and Madolche can even OTK if they didn't use Dark Ruler No More. I remember when I said the Phantom Knights were a tier 1 deck. Yeah, that's more tier 2-ish now, dog. Now, tier 2 decks, I don't think can consistently beat the meta changer decks, but I feel that every single one of these tier 2 decks has a good shot at the tier 1 decks. For Phantom Knights Fogblade actually get around Misk. Have you read Misk? And while Prank Kids can break Phantom Knight's board, they kind of don't care. They can just summon them back to the side of the field. Also, have you read Fogblade? After that, we have to say Solomon Great is a meta changer Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Solomon Great 2 Stroke, guys. This is the deck that everyone wants to play, and if they don't want to play it, then they don't like Yu-Gi-Oh. That's pretty much it. Nah, we setting our Salad Boys up for that. Solomon Great is not a meta changer Yu-Gi-Oh deck, guys. It is a rogue deck. Now, you remember when I was telling you guys how hand traps aren't necessarily that good unless you play them in abundance? Salamangreat can do that in abundance. Salamangreat can play a yes amount of hand traps, which is completely ridiculous, and cards like Fantastical Dragon Phantasme can actually help the Salamangreat strategy because you can summon it under Sunlight Wolf. You can also forego hand traps with Salamangreat and play a trap-based control variant. That works really well. The thing that makes Salamangreat just so good against some of the other decks is its abundance of trap cards that you can play, especially very good floodgate cards like Goes and Match, and its most important cards, its recyclable cards in Salamangreat Rage and Roar. Sky Striker is another great rogue deck. Listen guys, I know we've told you guys not to play Mystic Mine, but if you're a Sky Striker player, play Mystic Mine. Do it. Play it. And don't look back. Mystic Mine is actually a really good Yu-Gi-Oh card right now. And what's a deck that can take advantage of Mystic Mine? Sky Strikers. Your opponent might be mad, but summon Hayate to your side of the field and attack your opponent directly for a few times. You'll win the game eventually. Thunder Dragon is actually a solid tier 2 deck. You will not believe how good this deck is. Thunder Dragon is actually really close to Madolche. It is a board breaking going second deck. I can't reveal any more information, but I'm telling you, Thunder Dragon is saucy. A lot of people have slept on Thunder Dragon since Thunder Dragon Colossus has been banned, but boy, this deck is stupid good. I can tell you one thing, it's a Thunder Dragon Chaos deck. Tri-Brigades are another tier 1 deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I think that might change. They might drop down to tier 2 because now Rocket Dragon Link can summon wind monsters. But if this deck goes first and set up Barrier Statue, it becomes incredibly hard for any deck to be able to beat. And going second, it can play those board breaking cards like Dark Ruler No More, and even Forbidden Droplet fairly free. I mean, to be fair, every single deck could play Dark Ruler No More, but it's what you do after the Dark Ruler No More that makes it so special, and setting up the Samorg thing is kind of special. BBW also has one of the best board breaking cards in Harpy's Feather Storm. That card's just completely ridiculous. This deck is a solid tier 1 deck. Virtual World is surprisingly a really good tier 2 deck. I wanted to put it as tier 1, but I feel like it's in between both of these, but I'm gonna stick to tier 2. Now, the reason why Virtual World is so good right now is because after its turn 1 setup, it's pretty much set for the entire game. Virtual World Shin banishes monsters from the field to the graveyard, something that every single deck above the tier 2 status needs. And Virtual World Gate Chuchi is a card that allows you to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field during either player's turn, and increases the level of a monster. It's ridiculous. Zoodiac is a very solid rogue deck. The reason why Zoodiac is in rogue is because while it can compete with these decks, it kind of falls flat on its face to these. Zeus isn't as powerful, don't get me wrong, Zeus is still a really good card, but Zeus is not going to break a Rocket Dragon Link board, and good luck making Zeus against Window. I do feel like Zoodiac is a very powerful Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Just right now with the current meta and the meta changers being what they are, I wouldn't play this deck religiously right now, even with Eldritch. Is just And last, I feel that Subterror is actually where'd I put Altergeist, because these two are buddy. I feel like wherever you put Subterrors, you gotta put Altergeist because they kind of do the same thing. You can summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and Subterror for free. Like, you don't even play Vert, you just activate Red Eyes Fusion and summon a Dragoon and then still do everything else like normal. And that's one of the things that I feel that just makes Subterror so good. It's floodgates of being able to play cards like There Can Be Only One, being able to summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon for practically free because you don't normal summon anyways. And the last thing is, while hand traps aren't necessarily at their best spot right now, being able to play high impact hand traps like Dimensional Shifter will definitely have you change your mind about how powerful hand traps are. Well, that is all that I have for this month's meta tier list. I really hope that I broke it down to you guys very well. If you guys have any ideas for improvement or any decks that you feel that I've missed, go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section. And also be sure to check out these videos, as I'll catch you on the next one.